Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next interview of the Masters of Manifestation Online Summit 2020. Today, we are with Marcus. Marcus, thank you very much for being here. I'm glad that we have to talk all those topics about manifestation, frequency, spirituality, and science together. For the audience, I would like to introduce Marcus. Marcus is the founder and owner of TimeWaver and Healy, who are two business who rely on frequencies, and we're going to discuss that so that you get to understand more what is a frequency and how you can use frequencies to manifest what you have in your mind. So Marcus, I give you 5 minutes to introduce yourself to the audience with your own words so that they can get to know you better.
Thank you, Kevin, for this nice invitation and opportunity. 5 minutes. That's short, so let's keep the story short and start at the beginning. What I remember is really when I was around 15 or 16. And this doesn't only concern me, but I believe everyone in this period of life, one gets a glimpse of what one's life is about. What is the purpose? It's something like a deeper insight into what the other world shines into our world. And for me, it was an encounter with music, which was heavenly. I don't want to go into detail of the story, but this realization really got me on a track which is connected to my the red thread through my life. And I very quickly discovered from this point on my passion for science on one hand and for spirituality on the other hand. So there were two strong forces, like a polarity: science, rationality, spirituality, which is all about experience and going inside, with a growing passion for both of this. And this made me, without thinking, study physics, for example. And going to a very good university in Heidelberg, where physics and philosophy were deeply connected. For example, the institute where I studied theoretical and experimental physics was at the Philosopher's Pars, the street called like this. So I really loved the combination of physics and philosophy. But all these questions which I had to start studying physics and philosophy were not really answered, but more and more questions, more and more fundamental questions were actually created by this. And at one point, there was such a strong bias between questions and answers. I needed to go a different way. I needed to go also a very consequent spiritual way. So I became a monk. And I stayed a monk in the Far East tradition for around 12 years. So it's just two strong polarities, science and spirituality. And it's never that I wanted to start a business, but after, I would say, during being a monk, already this strong impulse to connect these two sides of myself, science and spirituality in a practical way, became very strong. So I started to really this idea how spirit influences matter, how the mind uses through consciousness is interacting with the body. You know, how does it work that these two sides within us create this amazing miracle of life? So now I worked to find the interface between spirit and matter, between consciousness and the body. And on this way, I basically discovered the technology which I'm using nowadays, which is trying to access the information field, which connects matter and mind, which is closely connected to consciousness. And yeah, because I'm a practical person, I developed technologies. This was maybe around 2000, 2001, 2002. And I developed this technology, and like, I didn't want to, how to say, you know, try to find someone who will realize, manifest in this world, but I had this impulse in me to directly put it into action. So when the research was completed, to a certain extent. From the money which I had, I just got 3 devices built, which we could sell, and from this we could build 10 devices. So it was growing in a natural way, but always carried from this this deeper impulse to bring science and spirituality together, because I really believed since the time I became a monk that this will make a big difference for humanity. Because science is really what creates technology and the possibilities which we are using. It's all based on science and technology. All the ancient cultures are covered by a culture of science and technology. So if this strong force, which can make life better, but it can destroy life, if this strong force is not connected and based with very deep, spiritually founded ethical values, then it will create a big catastrophe. So I think this is one of the most urgent works which we need to do.
Okay. You said a lot of very interesting things, and I'm going to pick one first. So you say you started by being a musician, and then you studied science, physics, and then you became a monk. So you've been in the two extreme sides, if I could say, of the paradox that we're in today between rationality and surrender. I would say that surrender is the opposite. Did you experience some kind of resistance between you before to decide to study physics and then before to become a monk? Like, did you have kind of self-sabotaging stories in your mind, fears, things that could have make you make another decision?
Yeah. As you see already, it's a complexity. And I don't believe that surrender is the other polarity, part of the polarity of science, because I believe that surrender can be something very rationally based. Because if you're confronted, let's say, with an influence or a force which is much bigger than yourself, the most rational could be to surrender. And to surrender doesn't mean that you give up yourself fully. I am coming from my spiritual tradition. It's a tradition of surrender. This is because there is a realization that I'm a part of something wonderful. I'm a part of God. I'm a part, and I'm a soul which has a counterpart, which is the Paramatma, the super soul. So the connection which I feel in myself creates a feeling of surrender. But surrender means first you find yourself, and then you surrender yourself. And when you found yourself, only then you can maturely surrender. And this process of surrender means you are yourself. You develop your own self-confidence and your own self-consciousness. So the process of surrender, it's not irrational. I believe that Spock, if he would have all the information, even with this Vulcanian kind of rationality, he would come to the same conclusion of surrender. And even, especially as a scientist, you feel a great awe towards the universe and the great power which is behind, and the intelligence and all these miracles which are behind life. I think surrender is a natural and also rational way to approach reality.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't
get
speak
that.
about my own, because surrender is not easy.
Yeah, true.
And of course, it's the fears which are keeping us back. It's a small ego, I would say, which keeps us back, because the big ego is not afraid, because the big ego understands that it is a part of something, and it's not surrendering to something which is different from yourself, but it's really connecting all your different sides, all your different aspects, and finding a center and understanding this center is really what I'm surrendering to. It's me and not me. It's not something which has a different agenda than myself. It's not something which wants me to do something which is not my own self-interest. So the fears are always connected to the small ego, which thinks, I'm the doer, I want to do this or that. But when I was young, I mean, around 18, 20, this age, the idealism is so strong that it rules over all the arguments of the small ego. This is what I experienced. My fear was there. There was something like a gummy, what is like a kind of a rubber band which was keeping me back. You know, I felt this whenever I did steps, it was dragging me back, the more force. But at one point, it just happened. There was something, there was a help. There was a help which changed the situation. So this is something which I experienced on my whole way, starting from this point, that there is a help from the deeper selves. There's a help from the other side.
Okay. So talking about that, how would you describe that calling, that feeling that we can have that is irrational, illogical, that we somehow know that we have to do something, but our analytical mind put resistance? How do you describe that feeling, that calling, what it is for you?
It can appear outside, externally and internally. And what I have experienced is if the external signs and the internal feelings, if they are aligned, if they fall together, like in coincidences and synchronicities, then I get a strong confirmation that I'm on the right way. Because it's all about trusting your inner intuitions, but it's also about observing the situation out there. So there cannot be a contradiction for me, at least, between my rational side and my intuitive side. It's all about aligning them and coming over the duality within myself. Because to be a conscious being means to be a split into subject and object. And this split within ourselves can be overcome by connecting to this deep source. Yes, and this I have experienced through my life again and again, that there were these moments where it was absolutely clear, because what happened outside and what happened inside was the same, and there was no doubt. And remembering these moments got me through the other times, which were very, very difficult also sometimes, getting really lost. And mostly in these situations, if I reconnect to my root, to my source, to myself, I'm again growing the same confidence. Okay. The same things happen again.
Okay. So what made you first starting become a monk and then ending become a monk? What is the mental process you've been through?
The mental process, it started with rationality, actually. The feeling was following, because rationally, being 20, I fully understood that big part of my life is ahead of me, but I also realized it will not become better. I realized that I'm on the heights of my intellectual abilities. This is what you are if you're 20. All the mathematicians make their big discoveries with 20, 21. It's the best time to be a good chess player. Our world champion from Magnus Carlsen, he he became a world champion in chess when he was 20, around this, because that's the time. And I understood it will not become better. My body will develop, but it will deteriorate. I will die. So I looked at the different ways which I could go in my life, doing a career, becoming rich, whatever. And I saw absolutely no value in it. No value, because it's temporary. It is not based on meaning, on deep insight. The deepest insight which I had this time is I have to use this life for realization of myself, realization of the purpose. Why am I here? You know, so I didn't want to, how to say, lose one moment on anything else. So this was absolutely rationally clear to me, but it was a feeling which said, no, I mean, how will my life look like? Who will pay for my rent? And, you know, there was fears, but fortunately, I would say I could follow my rationality and this deep vision that my life is really meant for a higher purpose, not for the way which society gives to me. And I think this was the basis of my life, which still nourishes me and inspires me, because I'm on the same track still. Many times I got off the track and I got fears and I got maybe depression, and I was running into a direction which caused a lot of problems, especially if you're dealing with business. Life becomes very complicated, especially if it grows. You know, if it grows, you know what it means. And I experienced all this, and I'm thankful for this, because I still understand and I still feel I'm still at the same point when I was 20, that I want to do, I want to spend my life answering the big questions. Okay. Who am I? What is the purpose? Why am I here? Why am I placed in this world? What is still there to be done, which only I can do and nobody else?
And yeah, it never stops. It's not about what you do or who you are. It's forever lasting. This quest for meaning never ends. If there would be an end, it would not be worth it. I guess.
Yes, it's a quest, and it's a long story. And the archetypal story behind my own life is the story of Parzival on the quest for the Holy Grail. So this is what I encountered when I was 16 in form of music.
Okay.
And I didn't realize it. I realized it 20 years after only. That
when you look backwards.
When I look backwards, and I saw visions which connect the different pieces of my life. Because internally, if you go inside, everything is there. You can, if you look back to on the different situations in your life, sometimes still you don't understand why it happens and how it happens and what was the meaning of it. But there is a deep level within ourselves. If we connect to this, we see whatever happened, how it's connected to our whole life and what is the meaning. So it's a level within us which knows this. So our external consciousness needs to connect to this deeper wisdom, to this deeper knowledge, to the deep, you can say to the deep consciousness, but psychologically it's a part of the unconscious. But it's a spiritual aspect of it. So the deep conscious, the unconscious, the spiritual self, this is just different names from different perspectives.
Yeah.
And if you connect to this, and this is something related to the topic of your summit, it's about manifestation. I would like to, let's say there's a big misunderstanding about manifestation. Some people say whatever is on your mind, you can manifest. Whatever you desire, you can create in this world. But then they realize it doesn't work in this way. It just doesn't happen. This is an experience of many people. So it's not that whatever comes to our mind, which is on the surface of our consciousness, like on our neocortex, we can realize, no, many times opposite will happen, because we have to go deep and find our real intention. And our real intention has the support of our life energy. It has the support because our life energy is coming from the deep source, which actually created our life already.
Yeah.
So if we are connected, then also what comes to the surface of our consciousness, which reaches the neocortex, and its neurons which are firing there, this will reflect what is deeply inside. So if we align
Exactly.
the surface of our consciousness with our deep self, then we are becoming a creator and a manifester.
Yeah. Yeah. Manifesting is not about wanting, it's about being. It's big misunderstanding about this topic. It's like you don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you are somehow, and what you experience inside, and what you really deeply know inside from that deep state, as you say, when you don't just nourish a thought, but you entertain it and dig into it to unfold, and the source, the root of what you deeply are, and who you deeply are become your reality.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how you started becoming a monk, because you wanted to reach that self-realization. So what happened that 12 years later made you decide to follow another way? So it's still the same way, but taking another direction.
Yes, it's not that I decided, okay, now I go from spiritual back to the material world, but it was like a slowly fading out. And this fading out, like blending over into reconnecting to society. I mean, I was always connected to society, because even in this 12 years when I was a monk, I closely kept contact with scientists, with the scientific community, reading articles. I was writing even books in this period. Like my first book was called The Last Enigma, Science and Spirituality. Science and Consciousness. And even my second book I was writing when I still was a monk, it's called The Fields of Life. The subtitle was A Scientific Basis of a Spiritual Understanding of Life. So I was already trying to, to reach out to society, but I would say what happens is like a second type of puberty, or, going again through a period where I realized that certain aspects of myself were not lived when I was a monk. So, and
your spirit was craving for something else.
Yes, this is about relationship, obviously, about love and sexuality, and about experience other aspects like family. What does it mean to be a father? Or so this, at one point I felt this is a part of my life. So as a monk, this doesn't really work. But the tradition where I was, there was always a possibility of, from becoming a monk to re-enter into the taking more material responsibilities. So I choose this way, and it was not just a decision which I made, but it's something which matured, and I also got from my spiritual side very clear hints. So, but it didn't change my spiritual intention in life. But what also changed is the way how I saw spirituality. Originally, I saw it from inside a spiritual tradition, which has a certain language, which uses certain rituals, certain types of meditation. But I questioned that this is what I'm supposed to do. I can just follow a certain type of spirituality and reach perfection. But I had this impulse in me and I tried to understand, or ask the question, what is a new type, a universal type of spirituality, which doesn't depend on being a part of a certain tradition, being part even of a certain religion, because I understood that this might be the past of humanity, but it's not the future. It's not what's happening right now. Right now, spirituality happens, which is not part of a tradition. Doesn't mean that tradition is not important. The religions are important. They carry culture. They created culture. But at one point, they become too conservative. They are holding back the real spiritual experience, which is possible if you just connect to what happens right now. And this is what I had to understand, the actuality of spirituality, and spirituality in the middle of life and at the forefront of science and how the society develops. So this is what I wanted to be a part of and make a contribution to. And I decided to make the contribution through technology on the one side, science and technology, connecting consciousness and matter. And on the other side, to make it known to the world. And the natural way for technology is business. Of course, if you want to reach a lot of people, you either have to start a movement. There are many movements like whatever, which start and spread just like because the message is so connected to the global consciousness in this moment. Like, let's say, how they are called, Fridays for Future or something. Like, my daughter is so much engaged into saving the climate and so on. But the other way to make a deep impact is through business, because our society is business driven. So this is the way I choose.
Okay.
And
so just
it's a difficult way, because business has its own very material dynamics, which can be so destructive. Like science and technology can be very, very destructive, has a lot of energy and power. And business, if it's based purely on material intentions, will definitely destroy this planet very quickly. So connect science, spirituality, and business is something which is really needed.
And especially nowadays, I have the deep belief that this century is going to be a spiritual revolution, because information spread all over the world now instantly. So what philosophers knew 2000 years ago couldn't spread as fast as the level of information that we have now. And so you have that tripod, science, spirituality, and business. So was it again a feeling to create, to go into business and to create Time Waver and Healy? Did you suddenly had a kind of breakthrough moments where you could picture that in your mind? Like, how did that really started?
It was an ongoing process, because I was working on the field of science and spirituality, and I wanted to become practical. I'm a practical person, so I started to work in the laboratory. I started to do the research on technical possibilities of creating a quantum sensor by which you can communicate between consciousness and matter. I started actually research programs with other scientists together, and trying to get fundings for this and so on. We started a nonprofit organization for this purpose. But in all this time, I did my own research and development, and it just matured until the point where I said, now I just need an engineer to put it into reality, So by chance, there was an engineer whom I knew very well. And I asked him, how much would it cost to develop this, let's say, an electronic controller for the quantum systems, which I had already built? And immediately, if you start asking these questions, you're into business, because he will tell you, oh, it costs 10,000 marks or something. You say, okay, where do I get the 10,000 marks? If I get it from someone, he might want it back. And I saw that I do not want to be restricted by the money, which controls what's possible or not. Think about Nikola Tesla and his amazing vision and intention and genius, and the trouble he experienced by cooperating.
Blocked by the money.
Yes, blocked by the money, because he was dealing really with the money people, JP Morgan, Westinghouse, and so on. And they would only fund what will be very profitable for them. And this might not be the best for humanity or for our planet. So I knew about the fate of Nikola Tesla. So I saw the opportunity to start this naturally. I didn't even think it's a business, because when I first realized now it will become a business, because I have to register a company. You get to this point. You might have spent already some money here and there, but okay, now it gets serious, If you want to sell these devices, you need a company. It needs a name. You need a brand. You need a tax consultant, Oh my God, it becomes a business. And I still remember this moment. It was the beginning of 2007. I had already a working prototype. And I realized it's going to become a business. And I said, but what I have is not a product. It's not a product. It's something connecting science and spirituality. It's connecting people. It can never be a product. So I said, okay, but if it has to become a business, I don't want to rely on this business for my own living. I want to be independent from this business, so I can keep my intention clear. So this is what I did in all this time. I was never depending on the success of this business for my life or for my family. Otherwise, you might get corrupted. So I decided in this moment, yes, I will do it. And but stay free in my own intention. Don't get corrupted by money issues. So that's, I think, oh my God, it's how long? It's 20 years ago. No, it's not 20 years ago. It's maybe 15, 14, no, 13 years ago. 13 years ago. And yeah, I'm still keeping to this spirit.
Okay.
So what I want to say is just, from the vision and mission which I experienced when I was 16, became clearer when I was 18, when I started to study what was my passion, and then study philosophy, going towards spirituality, then taking this 12 years just to focus on my spiritual journey, but still keeping the same track of science, and then, re-entering into more responsibility in this world, naturally solidifying the thing to become a business. I found it really like a continuity through my life.
Yeah, you manifested it by following your calling and intuition for all those years.
But it was a difference. This is a general story from which many different things coming out and could come out still. Time Weaver was one of the first things. But then within this journey, something happened. And I tell you, it's always about meeting the right people and having the right people around you. Because if you get a great idea, but you don't have people around you who can support you, or on yourself, nobody can do anything. Even Nikola Tesla couldn't do anything on himself. So you need to be in an environment which is supportive to you. And if you experience this, then you feel, wow, I'm at the right place. My ideas are supported. And so because if we talk about Healy is not Time Weaver. As I told you, Time Weaver is not really a product, but it finds the people to use it, or the people find it. But the small thing, the Healy, the birth of the Healy was when I met Nuno Nina, maybe 10 years ago. And we were brainstorming and thinking, and then simultaneously we both had the idea to make our technology very small, put all the knowledge we had in something very small and connect it to the smartphone. You know, we both had this idea in Lisbon, and from that time, the idea was so strong that it would manifest anyway. And you know, I when I came back from this meeting, I talked to my engineers and I asked them to make a study, how much investment it would take, how long would it time to create such a device, even not being completely aware about all the different features of it. And they did this. And the result was, oh, let's do it later. Don't do it now. It's too demanding. So because we were so busy what we were doing. So what happened 2 years after, the engineer called me and said, Markus or Mr. SCHMIEKE, do you remember when you gave us this idea and then you stopped it? It so strongly worked in us that in our free time, we realized it and we built a prototype. But because it was your idea, it belongs to you.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. He said, of course, there's a price for our work. If you want to pay it, it's yours. And I said, okay, deal. Because it was fair. It was absolutely fair. So I knew I'm surrounded by the right people.
Mm-hmm.
Other people would just maybe run away with the idea. No, I'm surrounded by the right people. And even if I get off track, other people keep the line, they keep the spirit. So from this moment, the prototype which we got that time, maybe 6 years ago, 5 years ago, has nothing to do with the technology which we have developed since then, where we put in multi-million euros just into the development. But the support was there. We didn't lose time. And
mm-hmm.
so it's all about meeting the right people, because if you have the right, if you have an idea which is supported by the quality of time, your environment will also support it.
Completely. And so that ELE is based on frequencies. So you connect to, I use the term connect, but you connect to frequencies, or frequency is something that you cannot see, you cannot hear, you cannot touch, you cannot smell. Like it's beyond your five senses. And
no, I'm sorry if I interrupt, but
mm-hmm.
frequencies is something very concrete. A frequency is like a word. A word carries information, but it has a physical structure of frequencies, actually. So a frequency is something very real if it is expressed by physical means, like sound or electrical vibrations or magnetic fields which are vibrating with a certain frequency. So whenever I use the term frequency, I refer to a physical property of a certain carrier, like electrical fields, magnetic fields, quantum fields can be quantum fields also. It can be very subtle, but the frequency is a physical property of the medium you're using. So that's very important for me, because the same term frequency is used in an esoteric environment for, you can say, let's say, you can say love is a frequency, or you can say everything is a frequency. That's right if you use the name frequency as a metaphor. But I like to use the term frequency as a purely physical term, because it has such a strong impact. When Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the universe, think about it in terms of energy, vibration, and frequencies. He talked about physical frequency, like hertz, 350 hertz, 1047 hertz, and they make a difference.
Yeah, because everything is a frequency, literally everything. So what I wanted to say is about that device, that it's sending out a frequency that like we cannot directly see with our eyes. So in terms of manifesting, in terms of moving from mind to matter. Someone has a strong calling, and through frequencies, through connecting to a specific frequencies, has the ability to manifest that vision, that idea, that intuition, without apparent effort sometimes, like by defying the notion of space and time. How, how do you describe that process from moving from mind to matter by frequencies?
That's actually, the Healy is giving a very, very good example how it works. Because the Healy creates the frequencies, because there's a frequency generator inside, it creates the frequencies as a modulation of an electrical current or field.
Mm-hmm.
And this is applied through cables. And if you connect them, for example, to your arms, you feel each frequency, and each frequency feels different. That's a nice thing. You say, you cannot see the frequency. Okay. If I modulate on light, you can see the frequency.
Mm-hmm.
If I use light and use like a frequency of 20 hertz or 10 hertz, or I can see it. It's very quick, but I can see it. But here I can feel it, and my body reacts on it. So this is a wonderful experience of healing, that you feel each frequency, and the frequency is changing each 10 seconds. So what's special about it? That's not special at all yet. But what is special about it, that through a certain, it's called a physical noise generator, which is a quantum sensor, the frequencies come from the information field, from the underlying information field, which I consider to be the deeper connection of matter and spirit. And so the frequencies are used as a language by which the information field manifests. It communicates and it manifests. So if you use these frequencies to apply to your body, it can create something within yourself, a new order, a new coherence. It's not that suddenly you're growing something in your ear or something, not this kind of creating a different type of order, creating more coherence, creating more harmony or balance within yourself, and inspiring yourself from the depths of the information field, which is inside yourself. So the Healy is a connector through frequencies, and the frequencies have the power to manifest, because frequencies can initiate physical processes. That's how quantum physics works. You can express the whole physical reality just in terms of frequencies. And whenever something in our physical body moves on the biochemical level, the molecules which undergo biochemical reactions are always triggered by photons, which carry certain frequencies. So the frequency is really a universal language used in our system for communication. And that's where the Healy connects to. And so it's kind of using the Healy connecting to the information field, allowing yourself to, through which this information field, so the frequencies can manifest something in this world.
Okay. And so for someone who is only using its mind, for someone who have it can be a vivid vision or a feeling of something to accomplish that is bold or impossible or irrational, someone who is using in mind, there is that explanation that say that you have to connect to the frequencies of the reality you want to get, and nourish that reality in your mind and to feel that reality, and that way you're connected to the frequency of that reality, and there is the electromagnetism that start to happen somehow, and you're attracted towards that reality, and that reality is attracted to you. Do you use the same definition for manifestation, or do you have another way to explain what is manifestation from the mind?
Yes. If I like the way how you explain it, but it's a mixture of scientific terms and using the same terms as metaphors for something which is still very difficult to put into scientific language. Therefore, I don't say it's wrong, this, but I try to see try to separate that part of your language which is scientifically valid and which has the support of very recent, actually cutting edge research, and the other side which is metaphorical, almost in a psychological language. So there's something very interesting from cutting edge research about the question, how does consciousness come about? Because there's so much going on in our brain, but what is going on in our brain is not conscious. How does a conscious thought manifest? It's a manifestation already. So there's a process behind. And the process is that, okay, there's a brain, and the brain uses a lot of electrical activities. And the electrical activities trigger the firing of the neurons. And the firing of neurons, again, is an electrical or an electromagnetic energy. So if the neurons, instead of each firing for itself at a certain point of time, if the neurons align themselves, many of them, to fire simultaneously, and then fire again simultaneously, and following a certain pattern, a certain frequency, then what happens is there is a coherent firing of the neurons, which again create an electric field, a strong electrical field. And this electrical field, on the basis is a coherent field, seems to be the seat of the consciousness. And these fields again control the firing of the neurons, which again creates a coherent electric field, so there is a kind of reflection process created. And it's all about the right frequencies being applied coherently. So whenever this coherence in our brain comes about, then so many different energies of millions of neurons combine the energy to create a strong field, which can again re-influence the brain. And in this self-reflective process, consciousness comes about. So if a thought or an idea becomes conscious, you can be sure that already very strong coherent forces are behind. Otherwise, it just stays in the quantum computer of our brain. So conscious thoughts are already a manifestation from the unconscious, which needs to put the right frequencies in coherence in order to become conscious. So what I think is even same important than what becomes conscious is what is going on in our unconscious. And that's a deep level in our brain. It's a deep quantum level in our brain. And on this deep quantum level of our brain itself is quantum entangled with its environment. Even with other brains, there are enough experiments which show that if you, like now we meet each other, we observe each other, we look in each other's eyes. So we quantum entangle each other. And our brains will be, to a certain degree, stay quantum entangled. So the people you meet in your lives, this is very important. You connect to minds. You connect, and each mind is connected to the universe itself. So if you realize that our brain is, our subconscious brain, our quantum brain, is able to connect to basically the whole universe by observing, then you see the power which is within myself. But immediately you realize it's not myself, but myself is just an expression of this power, which is based on connecting with all the other minds and spirits and brains. So this is a creative power, which is so strong that it created this universe, and we are part of it. It's just about being aware to connect about the quantum entanglements, which are anyway there.
So talking about subconscious and consciousness, so that current is amplified when what is in your subconscious and what you consciously think about are aligned. that you amplify the currents of a thought, or you amplify the currents of a feeling that way when both levels are aligned, right?
Yes, and it's all about like consciousness comes from the unconscious if there's a strong enough degree of coherence. And this creates the energy. Because there's enough energy, but if all the energies go in different directions, nothing comes out. But if they somehow agree to align and go not only in the right directions, but at the same time in the right directions, which means frequencies or a spectrum of frequencies, then it happens. So, and it's all about this, all about coherence. And if you come into a field of coherence, you can feel it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
if in a team you reach this degree, this level of coherence, then you feel the power and say, yes, now we're in a moment we can manifest. And this was the next decision which we had. Healy was already there. We produced Heelys already for 1.5 years, and we sold it to doctors and to practitioners and to also normal people. And we had a great feedback and results. I mean, we needed 1.5 years to stabilize Healy as a medical device so that everything is under control, because medical devices are very touchy.
Yeah, it's touchy topic. Yeah.
Yeah, touchy in what I say. There's lots of regulations. Everything has to be really in place, and the quality management system. So it needed a certain time where we could be sure. But then again, there was a critical moment, because the question is, okay, you have a great product and you have the vision to give it to the whole world, but how? So, and it was again a critical situation where like 10 or 12 leaders of the group of our companies came together and in a very special meeting. And I felt here's the energy to manifest the right way, how to go out with Sealy. And I was very much sure the right way is to start a network marketing. Network means to give it from people to people. I have Healy here. I can inspire 10 people. And if these people use Sealy and are inspired, each of them will find 10 people. How many times do I have to do this to reach humanity? 9 times. After 9 times, in the 9th generation, each family has a Healy. So this idea was so strong in me that I just had to mention it. And the whole team said, that's not easy, but that's the way to do. That's the way to go. And we made this decision equivocally. I don't know how it's the English expression. So everyone agreed to it.
Yeah.
And there was a strong power. And one of these people said, I know a person who can do it for us. So I met this person and he immediately said, yes, let's do it together. We shared the same vision. So if you once feel this coherence within a team, because you can't do anything alone, within a team, then everything just almost happens by itself. And this is what I experienced that moment. Just 2 years ago. It's just 2 years ago. And already now more than 100,000 people have a Healy. So it went very quick. So if everything is in place and the coherence is there, things can manifest very quickly.
Yeah, and there are a lot of theories and limiting belief about network marketing, but I have to say that the Healy network marketing, which I'm not part of yet, is beautiful network full of very lovely people, caring people. It's beautiful.
That's so important, because a network is made out of people, nothing else.
Yeah.
Technology is not important. Even if internet breaks down, if you have a network, one person tells it to the other, everyone knows it. And it's all about the quality of people and the way how they interact with each other, and the alignment of attention. So create a coherence in a network. This is what I want, and this is what we want. We are not perfect in it. So lots of problems are also there. But the quality of the people and the quality of the product, if this comes together, um, it's such a strong power.
Yeah, I agree. I agree on that. Marcus, I have two last questions for you for this interview. The first one is, so there are a lot of people out there who don't believe in the law of resonance or the law of attraction or manifestation or moving from an idea in your mind to its manifestation into matter. And those are usually people who rely on hustle, hard work, and working harder and harder. IQ is everything, and they're sometimes say that they're successful because of luck or coincidence. So what I mean, we know together because and you more than I, because we have studied that material and we know that there is a science backup and scientific explanation via the art of manifesting. But what would you say to someone who say that, oh, that's bullshit?
This type of people are very rare, very rare. There are some authors, some celebrities who do a lot of debates as an atheist, but if you go deeper, they are not atheists. They're just taking this role publicly for a purpose. So I believe I have not met this kind of people who really believe that there is nothing than matter and coincidence. And if they would so, then what they consider to be matter or coincidence would be the same what we consider to be spirit or intention or guidance from the self. You know, they just used to
Other words.
yes, they are in a different language game. This is, I think, what Wittgenstein said, is that philosophical conflicts or difference of opinion, mainly it's about conflicts of language games. So it's a different, and I believe everyone who experienced how big things happen will share this conviction.
Mm-hmm.
This is my experience. At one point I talked. I have many successful people in my surroundings, and I talked to them and asked them, "How did you become successful?" A friend of mine, he started a business and he wasn't successful at all. And so after 1 year of failure, he sit down and he sit down in a meditation, and he purposefully asked his self in the future, which became successful, what did he do to become successful? And he got an answer and he did it, and he became amazingly successful. So if you talk to those people who have managed to become successful with an idea and listen to their story, it's always very special, and it's almost type of mystical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And there are a lot of people who are not conscious of how they're doing it. I talk with some people who, like from my perspective, from my point of view, was really an art of manifestation. But when I started to talk about that with them, they're like, "No, it's just me. I did it." And if I started to talk about spirituality or the mind with them, they were like very very resistant. And I tried to have some of those people in the speakers lineup, but as soon as I bring in the word manifestation, they were like, "No, that's not me." They believe that there are a lot of people who everyone is manifesting, but there are certain people who do it consciously and others unconsciously, and maybe they will never be aware of what they've been doing in the past.
Yes, I think it's not about trying to convince them, because either they become successful with what they are doing and happy and satisfied and doing something good. That's great. But I don't believe that they will hold the same opinion through all of their life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, talking about life, I believe that you talked about it's going on eternally. We all have to die. And that's in front of us, in front of everyone. And I believe that dying is one of the most significant, or probably the most significant moment of our life. And that's in the spiritual traditions that you prepare for this moment, because it makes your life complete. You don't have to worry about afterlife or reincarnation, yes or no. We cannot say this for sure, but we can say that being born in this world and disappear from this world, as Carl Gustav Jung said, life is a short span between two miracles, which are actually one.
Mm-hmm.
To become aware, at least be aware that our whole life is a miracle. It's something which we don't understand at all. It's a manifestation of something deeper. It's mysterious, and we are here to partially discover this secret, this enigma behind. And we're all heading towards death, which will be, I believe, it's a belief. I cannot know. Nobody can know something for sure about death. No model, no
Totally.
theory. So we are confronting this moment, which will be absolutely something out of our reality. So it's not that I'm looking forward to this moment, but it will come to every one of us. And I think that no belief or theory will hold this moment. Also not the ideas which I have, So I just want to say, we just need to be open to what we don't know yet. We will confront it for sure.
Yeah, what we don't know is the key.
Yes. Therefore, the key to the consciousness is the unconscious.
Yeah. So I have one last question for you, Marcus, and it's an advice. An advice for people who have an intuition, who have a calling, who maybe have a vivid vision, vivid picture of something they can accomplish, but because of its irrationality, because it seems illogical for them, they don't have the faith and the confidence to make that quantum leap, to literally jump towards it, and surrendering to that thing that they have in mind. What would be your best advice for those people?
I think the best is to continue the path which they are on. You mentioned two things: hard work, coincidence, I would say luck, and then there's the third thing, which is a talent. So this is always there's a talent, which means what you're really good in. Probably you are the best in the world in this specific thing you are doing at your place. You are really good in it, and you need to be inspired. You need to be very enthusiastic about it. And it needs to be something which the people need. If these three things come together, what you're really good in, your calling, your burning yes, I would call it. And then, wow, humanity needs it. Then it will be a success, and based on your talent, you have to work, and you need good luck. That's all. Talent, work, discipline is always necessary. Talent normally is just 10%. And then you need good luck, means the support from your environment. So if you just follow this way, and I believe then if you're on the right way, you will feel more and more support, and you can look for the signs. You can look for the synchronicities. Normally, on such a way, synchronicities appear
all the
around.
time. Yeah.
Yes, they appear. So it's not that you have to become an astrologer and see the signs and so on. Actually, I did. I became an astrologer and
Mhm.
for many years, but I'm not doing astrology anymore because the signs are there even without astrology. And science can be just if you work hard, you use your talent, that you have luck, and people support you, and and you just get a good feeling about what you're doing. So nothing miraculously, but just on the way, what is there, continue with your work, be inspired, and of course, connecting to your deep self, connecting to your deep self. Either you do it through meditation or a spiritual process, which other people have to go to nature and connect to it through what they experience through their senses, but you need this feeling that you are one person and you do it with your whole self. And then whatever you do will be the right thing.
Yeah, I like what you say about the talent and artwork, that you have to take action towards that thing and don't wait and see, but do something towards it to make it happen. And also, yeah, what you say about synchronicity is what I'm used to say with my clients. Like when you follow your intuition, when you follow that irrationality within, but you somehow know that it's the right thing to do and you do it, your world start to become a gathering of synchronicities. Like all those people coming to your life, or ideas, or new intuition, or event, and that it's the flow of ease that allow you to reach your outcome, to reach what you want.
Right.
Thank you very much, Marcus. I really appreciated that topic. It was deep. Sometime I hope that everyone could understand everything. I really encourage you to visit Healy website to know more about this Healy device, how it works. Also have a look at Time Waver. You will have the link on the email announcing this interview, so that you can understand how it works, and you can maybe be part of the network marketing that is full of beautiful human being. And maybe that watching that interview was for you a sign of synchronicity towards your own calling or your own vision. Thank you, Marcus. I really appreciate it. If you have one last word, maybe.
Yes. When is the summit? The summit is when?
The summit is at the beginning of December, the first 10 days of December.
Yes. I just wanted to mention a last thing, because you mentioned Healy. Healy is really meant to connect people and to connect the people to their deep self. It's not meant for other purposes, but this purpose is already very big, and therefore on the 21st of December, we will have what we call a Global Earth Healing Day. We do this since December 2013. But this time we include all the Healy people, but also everyone else. So we will announce it. It's called the Global Earth Healing Project, and we will have one day where we connect not only the people who have worked with frequency devices, but people from all over the world who do meditations, who give blessings, who give good wishes and prayers, to connect at one day for the benefit of our planet and for the global consciousness of humanity. So this is something which I'm very passionate about, and it will be on the 21st of December.
Okay, so I will put a link on that too, so that people can access it then.
Global Earth Healing Project.
Okay, great. I like that. I've been part of some current meditation project before, that's impacted the magnetic field of the Earth. Like we can measure that later, a few days after,
Wow.
and it's awesome. So thank you for sharing that information.
All the best.
I wish you a good day, and I look forward to hearing back from you again.
Thank you so much.